So the arrival of the Empire Windrush, as you mentioned, 75 years ago, is significant because it marks. I see it as marking a kind of turning point when it comes to the history of Britain and the Caribbean, because on board, and these weren't the only passengers, but on board the Windrush were nearly 500 Jamaicans who had come from Jamaica to Britain to basically set up a new life. And these were people who were at the time British subjects. A few months later, they would be deemed British citizens who were coming from the British colony of Jamaica, and they were again coming. Many of them had actually served in World War II. Some of them had been in the Royal Air Force, and so they were. But for many of them, they were coming back to Britain to work, to live, and possibly to some were planning to return to the Caribbean, and others were planning to have other family members come. This has been traditionally understood as the beginning of an extensive migration from the Caribbean and from other parts of the British Empire to Britain. But as I mentioned, I see this as a transition point, because of course there had been people, quite significant numbers of people who had come to Britain from the Caribbean before 1948, including those RAF servicemen. But it does mark a quite significant upswing in migration that we see through the 1950s and the 1960s.